Welcome to A Chef's Grimoire, Spring. Today we'll be working with Lady Justice. For today's card, we are going to have a beautiful menu. So if you wish to skip past the symbolism that we're going to talk about now in the card, just go into the timestamps in the scroll bar at the bottom of the video and you can fast forward. I have all the timestamps also listed in the description, so you can go to what you want to see and then just scroll to that area of the video for your viewing. But right now, for the next, say, 20 minutes, we're going to be speaking about the Justice card and all the symbolism in the card. We're at the Major Arcana page in the Grimoire, and I like to start here with every video just to see how far we've come and how far we have to go. This is what's called the Fool's Journey, and the Fool is over here, numbered 0. And the reason the Fool is here is because they need to travel through this pathway, which is the journey of the Fool. They meet up with the line. The first line is consciousness. So you're meeting up with your teachers, your mentors, the people that guide you through life. And then we move to the second line, which is our subconscious. So we're now taking everything we learned and putting it into action, and also having our take on it, starting to not just follow the masses, but now become an individual. And it's all within our subconscious, waking up and making us the people that we are. Then we'll finally move to the third line in the majors, which is the superconscious. And this is basically all the enlightenment, all of the things that bring both your conscious and your subconscious into one. And we'll obviously explain in detail when we get to these cards. But right now we're here at Justice. So let's go to that page now and we'll talk about the card. Now, whenever I turn to a new page in the Grimoire, we continue the Fool's Journey. So that is this script here. I'll read through it, and then I'll start to talk about symbolism in the card. A single church bell chimes in the distance, 1 o'clock, in the pitch black of the cell, and now that there's time to think, the Fool begins to feel angry at the situation they are in. This is a bit extreme of punishment for my non-intentional actions. I hope Lady Justice sees that I'm not a criminal and that this is all a mistake. Hours creep by, and soon a shard of sun breaks through the window. The Fool hears footsteps and jingling keys. A man walks up and opens the door. Lady Justice will see you now. Upon entering the courtroom, Justice addresses the Fool harshly. Fool, you are brought before me due to an act of perjury and theft. How do you plead? Not guilty, says the Fool. Justice replies, my records show that you were provided a service but did not have money to pay. Yes, says the Fool, but it was unintentional. I was so excited and felt so confident I could win, I did not remember that I did not take my money with me the day before when I decided to go for a walk. I met Strength in the field, then the Hermit later on that day, and spent the night on the mountain. This may be, says Justice, but you are not being condemned for taking a walk, nor for meeting Strength or the Hermit. You stated your plea as not guilty, but it is clear you are guilty of the crime you are accused of. I may have not had the money to pay, says the Fool, but the price was only $1, and for this I was locked up. I don't think that was fair. Lady Justice, showing no sign of empathy, states, "Fool, every path has consequences. You must be prepared to be accountable for the steps you take. You never know the harm you might cause without awareness. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility. Your not paying your fair share caused the barker and his family to go hungry for the night. Spontaneity can be beautiful, but when blind, it can also be reckless and cause harm to others without knowing." Remorseful, the fool says, "Yes, I understand, and I am sorry for the barker. When I was cold and hungry, the hermit took me in and gave me food. I was very grateful." "Well, that is just it, fool," says Justice. "If all people were to do to others whatever you would have done to you, I, nor the court system, would be here. I sentence you to the gallows for a period of 2 days. Perhaps in that time you will see a shift in consciousness, just as the hermit did, and embrace enlightenment." With that, Lady Justice lowers her sword, and once again the fool is taken by both arms and escorted out of the courtroom and off to the unknown. So this part of the page and the columns on the outside are part of the Raider Waite Smith tarot cards. Everything else is embellishment that I decided to add to the cards. So we're going to talk about Lady Justice right now, and then we'll go around to everything else. So firstly, to know, the card Justice is ruled by Libra, which is the astrological sign Libra. And Libra's planet is Venus. The card is numbered 11, 10 plus 1, 11. And the element for the card is air. The astrological glyph for Libra is a straight line and then a second line on top of it that has a bump in it, almost like a bridge. It's like a setting or rising sun too, which makes sense because 11 and Libra balanced. So it's the equal day and night, and Libra season is around the autumn equinox. So very fitting right there. The key words for this card are law and not being fair with yourself or with others. Now, Libra in Latin means scales, which is why the scales are here, the scales are here. You wouldn't see Libra without them. You wouldn't see the Justice card without them. Lady Justice was first made to public knowledge back in ancient Greece by the Emperor Augustus around the 1st century. And it was goddess Lustitia or Justitia, however you want to say it, but that is the Roman name for Lady Justice. Now, in Christianity, justice is part of the 4 cardinal virtues, right? There's prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. We'll get to temperance later in the Fool's Journey, but we have already discussed fortitude, which is strength, the strength card. And now we're here at justice. The only virtue that's not present in the tarot deck is prudence, but its meaning can be deciphered in other cards. It's just not called prudence. In older decks, justice was numbered 8, and I talked a little bit about this when we did the strength card. But in later years, like obviously with the Raider Waite Smith deck, justice and strength were swapped. So instead of strength being number 11, it's now number 8, and justice moves into number 11 spot. I find this makes total sense. And the reason that it was swapped was the Golden Dawn, who really brought about the tarot as we know today. They wanted to connect the zodiac and the Kabbalah to the major arcana. So in doing that, it made sense to switch the two cards. 11 is exactly the halfway point because there is 22 cards in the major arcana. So 11 is the halfway point in the majors or in the Fool's Journey. And halfway is balance, right? So there are 11 cards on one side and 11 cards on the other. 11, also when depicted as two ones, is a doorway. And justice sits between two pillars. Now this will look very familiar because we've already looked at the Hierophant and the High Priestess, who also have two pillars in their card. But these two pillars that justice sits between are mercy and severity. And justice is the one who balances the two, or who decides who gets mercy and who gets severity. Another depiction of Lady Justice in older decks is Lady Justice would be wearing a blindfold. That's not present here in this card, but a blindfold basically, like in the 16th century, it was thought to be being non-partial. If you can't see, you don't know if the person in front of you is a beggar or a prince, is black or white, is green or purple. It doesn't matter. If you do an injustice, you're going to be corrected. The word blind justice also refers to justice or Lady Justice wearing that blindfold. Blind justice is the same thing. It just means that it's impartial. Other than clarity of mind and knowledge of the situation, there shouldn't be any partiality regarding the event that needs to be judged. Why did they take the blindfold off? Lady Justice is a feminine energy. And being a feminine energy, there's more intuition involved and therefore non-partiality. Catchphrases such as blind justice, eyewitness, justice is blind. That all goes back to the blindfold in depictions of Lady Justice way, way back. Now, the other thing the Raider Waite Smith Deck decided to do with Justice card was to make the character androgynous. This could be a man, it could be a woman. And that all goes back to, again, impartiality. So who's judging you doesn't matter, just as who's being judged doesn't matter. The sword Lady Justice carries is in the right hand, which is your rational and consciousness. Sword is the weapon of intellect. Many cards use swords as the air element, and air is all about your intellectual thoughts. The sword is also a reminder that justice can be swift and final. Swords cut. Swords, when intellectually used, make quick decisions and symbolize mental clarity. The scales that Lady Justice holds are in the left hand, and that's intuition and should balance intuition with logic. It's also representation of balanced judgment. We talked a little bit about the scales in the Wheel of Fortune. Back in Egyptian times, there was Anubis, who was responsible for carrying souls to the afterlife. But he didn't do that until he weighed their heart. So he would weigh their heart against an ostrich feather. And if the heart was lighter than the feather, or didn't tip the scales, then they would go to the afterlife. And if they did tip the scales, then Anubis would pass the soul on to someone who would either eat their heart or bring them to the underworld. That's what the scales represent. The scales were also hugely necessary back in Egypt when they were weighing the grain. You weren't paid by money, you were paid by grain. So you had to weigh it to know how much the value was of it. And then you could use it for food or trade. And so it was what you were, in our day and age, it would be your money that you were paid in. But the scales were extremely important. If you didn't get your fair share of your grain, then, you were just done an injustice, right? So justice holding the scales, very fitting. The purple sheet, it's called a veil. And the reason it's prominent in this card is because it's a curtain of illusion. It's hidden reality, the boundary between actions and consequences, and higher authority that backs up justice. That's the reason it's purple. Purple is a very royal color. It's deeper understanding that lies behind the surface. Now, Justice's red robes symbolize her active passion for justice. Red, if you remember, the Hierophant also had a red robe, as well as the Emperor. It's authority and passion. Red is also the color of the root chakra, which grounds us. So Lady Justice is grounded enough to pass on justice to others. We talked about the pillars here, and just like in the High Priestess and the Hierophant, the pillars are on either side of the character, and all of the pillars mean different things. So I want to just take a look at them right now. So these are the 3 cards that have pillars with the character in between them. Right? Here's the High Priestess. And all three characters are sitting. Sitting is submissive. Sitting is feminine energy. Now we'll start with the High Priestess. She's numbered 2. Now the High Priestess sits between Boaz and Yachin. Boaz is strength and Yachin is established. So the 2 pillars here were in front of the King Solomon's temple, and they represented the strength, the established strength you must cross between in order to enter the temple. So with the High Priestess, the established strength you need to connect with the higher realms. In the Hierophant, these pillars, the symbols here actually look like fallopian tubes, which give birth, right? In a woman's anatomy. So the Hierophant is all about processing knowledge and passing it on, birthing it to the public. And his pillars are very structural. So very structural. Institutions are very structural. They're passing on or birthing knowledge to you from others that have gone before. And change is very unlikely. Justice, you'll see the pillars are very plain. They're not decorated in any way. And they have no tops. They just continue on. And these pillars represent 2 of the 3 pillars that are in the Kabbalah. There is mercy, balance, and severity. And justice is balance between mercy and severity. So Lady Justice sits on a stone bench. You could call it a throne, but it's a bench, right? We're in the law world and there's the bench. So it's stone for a reason. There's no distractions in this card. It also represents justice being blind to wealth and influence. The crown that Lady Justice wears is the authority to hold the scales. There's 3 turrets on the crown, and these could be symbolized of the severity, balance, and mercy. Now, there's a blue stone in the middle of the crown. That blue stone is representation for Cathar, which is on the tree of the Kabbalah. and it means crown. The square is also a Freemason symbol for preeminence, which is being of higher authority. The square is also a compass for true north. It's domination and authority. But true north, keeping your eye on true north, not being persuaded in either direction, you need that to make the final judgment. The blue stone is also, some believe, the third eye. And the third eye is seeing the truth through higher consciousness. I also depicted a third eye up here. This is my interpretation of what should be in the card, a third eye. And lastly, on this particular part of the card, we have the white shoe peeping out. Now, we had a white shoe peeping out for the Hierophant as well. And that is just a symbolization of purity. Purity of the soul that is grounded. Shoes are grounded. Even though they're white, that's the purity, but the shoe itself walks on the physical ground. Earth is represented in this card in just the earthiness of the robes. We have the red and the green. The green is basically bringing life into the decision-making process. So it's cut and dry, yes, but from the decision, a new life can grow. So if the person is guilty, then that person is put to jail, and hopefully they go through a transformation and can be set free into society. If they're not guilty, then they've gone through a situation where they are very clear-minded about how they're going to continue their life. In either direction, there's growth and potential for a new beginning. New seeds have been planted. Now, a quick just summary of the depiction of the scales up here that I wanted to put in. Number one, they're named Libra, representing the scales and the astrological sign. But I loved how they're balancing the sun and the moon. Again, being number 11, Libra being around the autumn equinox when day and night are of equal length. Day and night equal length. And it's just, we also have the clouds, right? So even on cloudy days, you still have balance. And the all-seeing eye is in front of the clouds. We talked about clouds in the Wheel of Fortune and the 4 cardinal signs sitting on those clouds. And that it's our responsibility to get to a point in our lives where we can clear away the clouds and get to the matters at hand. Also, I wanted scrolls as what I was writing the continuation of the Fool's Journey on. In olden days, when you were judged, they would bring out a scroll and they would open it up and your sentence would be written in it. So, just seemed like it was the right thing to do. Now let's talk about food, right? So, what would we cook for Lady Justice? Or what would Lady Justice cook for us? Well, this to me was pretty easy. You're talking about balance here, right? So I thought, well, we need to have a balanced meal. And what is a balanced meal? Well, a lot of people have their thoughts on that, but I went right to the source. I went to the American Heart Association, their website, and I just did a search for a well-balanced meal. And this is what came up. You should have 50% of your plate as fruit and vegetables. 25% of your plate should be lean proteins, and 25% of your plate should be grains and carbohydrates. I found that fascinating. Who really eats like that? But anyway, I made a menu around that particular outline. The one thing, and later in the video, I couldn't remember whether I had researched this or not, but I went back to the website of the American Heart Association. And I also went to the Mayo Clinic to double check. Not one of them, when they gave this breakdown of the foods you should have on your plate and how much of each, did they mention fats. And that to me is a little disturbing. We need healthy fats for so many reasons. If you just want one reason, it's because many of the vegetables you're eating require fats in order to process their vitamins and minerals properly within your body. So I did add them, and the best thing I came up with that was easy, seasonal, and fit the bill were Cobb salads. Now, if you don't know what Cobb salads are, they're basically a lot of vegetables, some fruit, proteins, of course, all laid on top of lettuce leaves or some kind of bedding, edible bedding, in rows. And traditional Cobb salads always have things like bacon and hard-boiled eggs in them, but you can really make a Cobb salad out of anything. So that's what we're going to do today. So we have 3 Cobb salads we're going to do. One is Cobb American, one is Cobb Asian, and one is Cobb Mediterranean. I don't know about you, but I think the verdict is, let's get cooking. I know you've made hard-boiled eggs in past, but this is my method. I get my water boiling, add the eggs, cook about 12 minutes, then drain and rinse them under cold water. Set them aside. We have salmon on our menu as well, so we're going to get it nice and dry. I like to pat it between 2 pieces of paper towel. And now I'm going to add olive oil and massage the salmon. Now, this is a good time to also feel for any bones and pull them out. We're going to season the salmon well with salt and pepper. And we're using an air fryer. I find the best results on salmon in my air fryer. I set it to 400 and preheat it. Then I add the oiled salmon to the dry air fryer. No oil on the rack of the air fryer is necessary. I'm going to bake this or air fry it for about 10 minutes, depending on the thickness. And then you're going to set it onto a plate or some kind of vessel to cool. Next up, bacon. I like to do my bacon in the oven when I'm using a large amount. 2 pieces of bacon you can certainly fry in a pan, but I love the oven method. And I also crimp the bacon like this so that air can go underneath it as it bakes, and it tends to get crispier. I'm going to set my oven for 400, and it's going to take about 25 minutes, but I'm going to drain the grease off as it cooks in that time. So this is the second time I'm draining off the grease, and this is the third time. The bacon is pretty much done at this point. So I'm going to take it off the pan while it's still hot and put it on paper towel to cool and crisp. Working with chicken breasts, I pounded these out so that they're even thickness. And again, just like the salmon, we're going to get them nice and dry. Now this time I'm not going to oil them. I'm going to season them well though. Lots of salt and lots of pepper. I have a grill pan that's been heating up for about 10 minutes on my stovetop. And remember that bacon grease? Well, people always ask me, what do you do with it? Well, this is one thing you can do. You can grease your grill pan with it. It's a high heat cooking oil and fabulous flavor. So to the pan, we're going to add the chicken breasts, and we're going to cross the breast over the grates on the grill. And you're going to cook these about 2 to 3 minutes.
Season the second side while you're waiting. Little salt, little pepper. And after about 2 to 3 minutes, we're going to not flip these, but we're going to turn them a quarter of the way. And you're going to continue to cook them about 2 minutes. Once that's over, then you're going to flip them. Look at that beautiful crosshatch. When finished, put them on a plate and let them cool. Our last protein of the day is a pork tonkatsu. We have thin sliced pork cutlets. These are a pork loin cutlet, and they come ready like this, so you can just get them from the store. I'm going to dredge it in flour that's been seasoned with salt, and then to an egg. Notice that I switched my hands. I have one hand for dry and one hand for wet. Now I'm going to add them to a third dredging station that just is lightly coated with the breadcrumb. This is a panko breadcrumb. And then I'm going to go from the bowl to cover the rest of the chop. This way I'm not trying to go around the chop in a very narrow compartment to try to get the other pieces of panko to go on top of the pork. It's just easier this way. I have a hot pan, and I'm going to add a neutral tasting oil. I'm using grapeseed. It's a high heat oil. I'm going to cover the pan. And then we're going to add to this size pan about 3 pieces of the cutlets. And once they turn golden brown at the edges, you can flip them. And now they're pretty much done. That whole frying process maybe took about 3 to 4 minutes per side, depending on how high you have your heat. You want to make sure it's about medium heat. You don't want to burn the oil, nor do you want to burn the cutlets. I have a red onion I'm going to use for my Mediterranean vegetables. I'm going to cut the root end off, and I'm going to slice through about twice, and now I'm going to cross cut in the center once. This is a nice chop for roasting. For the second salad I'm going to be using red onion in, I want to slice. So this time I'm keeping the root end on, but I'm slicing very thinly, using a bare claw as my guide with my non-dominant hand. Now back to the Mediterranean vegetables. I'm going to add cherry tomatoes. I'm not going to slice them, I'm going to leave them whole. And I have bell pepper. I started this bell pepper, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to do a crisscross on the pepper cheek. Nice big pieces we're going for here. And let me show you how I did that. I went down and through around the seeded part of the pepper. That goes to compost. And I'm going to take the rib of that pepper cheek out. That also goes to compost. I'm going to slice that cheek in half and then crisscross like you saw me do the first time. Nice big even pieces. And to that veg I'm going to add olive oil. And I have this great spice called Advia Polo. And the ingredients are cinnamon, cumin, cardamom, ginger, cloves, and rosebud flowers. I'm going to put that on. Nice dose of that. Little sea salt as well, and mix it up beautifully. It's going to be yummy. Add it all to a sheet tray. And I have a 400-degree oven ready for it to go into. I'm going to roast these, about 20-25 minutes. Now this trick I'm sure you've seen on TV, and if not, you definitely should know about it. You get 2 deli lids. I'm putting the cherry tomatoes in the deli lid with the lip up. I'm going to top it with a second lid, lip up. And as the bottom lid is my guide, I'm going to take a super sharp knife and go right through. You could do this with grapes, what else? Cherry tomatoes, yeah, look at that. Now for our Asian Cobb, we're going to be using cabbage. So I'm going to take the core out. I'm going to show you what I find to be an easy way to shred cabbage with a knife. I don't want it too fine, so that's why I'm not doing it in a food processor. But you take the leaves off, and I have about 4 or 5 leaves together, and then I cut them to a shape I want and just cross-cut, just like that. We're going to do the same thing with the green cabbage. Nice thin slices, just like that. Now our carrots, I'm going to trim them out as I always do before I peel them. Compost. And now you can buy shredded carrots in a bag, but when you shred them by hand, fresh, the flavor is definitely worth it. For our broccoli, we're going to cut into the smallest florets we can. So I'm finding one to take off, there it is, and I'm going to just trim it. This one has a little bit of brown on it. And when you cut it close to the floret, it kind of breaks apart, just like that. For our scallion, we're going to clean them by simply cutting off the root end, and I like to trim at least 3 inches, maybe 2 inches, 3 inches off the top. And then I'm going to feel around for any bits that don't look so nice and basically just peel them off until I get to the very clean inside of the scallion. Now we're going to slice these, but I'm going to do it on a bias. So I'm turning my knife on an angle and just slicing through. For our cucumber, I've trimmed both sides and I'm going to slice in half, putting the cut side down against the board, slice in half again. So you have 4 quarters. And then you're going to cross cut them into any thickness you want. I'm going for a little thicker on this one. And lastly, our lettuce. So I have a romaine that I got the heads of, and I'm going to trim them and cut them into nice sized pieces. Into the salad spinner these go. We're going to rinse them well and spin. For our sweet potato, I trimmed off both ends and I'm going to slice through. Now this is going to be a little tough to slice through. You want to make sure your knife is sharp, number 1. Get the knife into the potato like this and then press down instead of trying to slice without the pressure of your hand. It makes it so much easier. We're going to take each slice and we're going to cut it into 3s, depending on size, and then cross cut them into a nice big chunk, just like that. I'm going to do the same thing with the yellow potatoes. These are baby Yukons. And this one only requires 1 cut through the center, and then maybe 3 cuts across to get about the same size as the sweet potato. Now for the sweet potato, we're going to season them up because these are for our Asian Cobb. I'm going to use that grapeseed oil, toasted sesame oil, soy sauce, and give it all a toss. For our yellow potato, I'm going to give a good glug of olive oil, some sea salt, and toss that up. Now I have one sheet tray. I'm going to roast both these potatoes on one sheet tray because they're going to take the same time to cook. Just one on one side, one on the other. Now for our buttermilk ranch dressing, I have some freeze-dried chives, dried dill, this is a Greek seasoning. It's got wonderful ingredients like parsley and oregano and good stuff. Garlic powder and onion powder, a little salt. Now for our wet ingredients, I have mayonnaise, we've got yogurt. This is a Greek yogurt, so it's a little thicker. And buttermilk. To the wet ingredients, we're going to add all those spices we just measured out and the salt and mix it up well. Now you're going to taste to make sure that it's spot on, and then put it into your container for storage. For our Mediterranean dressing, we're going to add red wine vinegar, a squeeze of lemon, Dijon, a little bit of garlic, and oregano, and salt. Now we're making a emulsification. So this is a complex emulsified dressing. Complex meaning it's more than just the fat and acid. I put Dijon in there and the garlic and all that good stuff. So put a towel under your bowl if you're doing this by hand. And you're going to whisk all those ingredients with olive oil. Slowly, slowly drizzling that olive oil and whisking the whole time until it's thick and emulsified. Now for our katsu, for the Asian Cobb salad, I'm going to add some ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, soy sauce, onion powder, garlic powder, and to balance, sugar. Now whisk that all up and make sure you taste. Adjust if necessary. Now these are our ingredients for our Cobb American. I have that gorgeous chicken breast. Everything's been chilled, by the way. And I'm going to, well, I decided I'm going to do slices. So I'm just slicing through the chicken just like that. Nice. Now our egg. Okay, so the method I used where you plunge the eggs into the boiling water, this helps with peeling them. There's a little skin underneath the actual shell, and if you can just get your fingers under that skin, everything peels off beautifully. Now for this salad, I'm going to slice the egg to expose that beautiful yellow center, just like the rays of the sun. Now to your pan or bowl or plate that you're going to assemble the salad on, add your beautifully washed lettuce. I'm going to do a row of red onion, chicken, cherry tomatoes. You're going for color here, so if you have colorful something, put non-colorful, then non-colorful. I'm going to add cheddar cheese and the avocado. So best to just cut your avocado prior to serving so it doesn't turn brown. And I'm going to run my knife all the way around the lengthwise of the avocado. Take it in two, get that core out. And what I like to do is peel the avocado so that I have an exposed cheek of the avocado that I can slice or dice or do whatever I want to. And this time I'm going to slice it into long strips. And put those on your salad. Next, I'm going to add those roasted potatoes. That's our carbohydrates for this one. The egg goes on the side. I'm running out of space here. I have to get creative. So I'm going to take the bacon and I'm going to crumble it and sprinkle it over the top. And as I'm doing this, I'm just eyeballing the color here. So where am I going to put these cucumbers? I think off to the side of the red onion. Finally, we finish with a drizzle of that buttermilk ranch dressing.
First up, American Cobb. Classic, classic, classic. Chicken, you saw how easy that was. I did it inside, but you could certainly throw it on the grill. And remember, after it's on the grill for about 3 minutes, just do it quarter turn and you get that beautiful hash grill mark. Nice. Tender, very. Seasoned well. Ranch dressing, delicious. So I like the salad idea when it comes to going with all the food groups, how much of each of the food groups to do. We're moving where I am from winter to spring, so we want to balance the scales. A lot of weight I put on in the winter time, a lot of tasting. So salads are perfect. And these especially because you can see you're getting half of the plate is vegetable. The carbs are just, one line of the potato. But the rest is veg. And the protein, again, you're doing lines, so you're sure not to overdo it with your proteins. That said, you must be mindful when you're putting this together. So if you don't like red onion, you don't have to add it. If you like bacon, add extra, but make sure you cut back on the chicken.
The fats come from the avocado, the cheddar cheese, and the dressing. Eat your fats. And the crunch of the romaine. Okay. Classic salad for a reason. And I'm the type that loves a lot of stuff in my salads. Otherwise, they're just like boring. So give me a lot of stuff and I'm golden. All right, this is delicious. I could eat this whole thing, but I have 2 other salads to try. It's the last bite. I have the second half of that avocado from our Cobb American salad, but this time I'm going to, I think, do cubes. So I'm going to cross-cut my long slices, and there we go. Now I have my pork chop. I'm going to slice it into long strips, and then I'm going with a cubed theme, so I'm going to turn it and I'm going to cross-cut it so that it's cubed as well. Now to the cabbage on the platter or plate or vessel you're going to serve the salad in. I'm going to put the shredded cabbage, scallion, the pork, carrots, avocado, these are those roasted sweet potatoes, remember them, broccoli, and our mandarin orange. Now we're going to drizzle that katsu sauce over the top. And I am going to finish with toasted almonds. All right, this is Cobb Asian. What makes it Asian? Well, it's more in line with the vegetables that you would get in Asian countries, or American Asian, I should say. So broccoli, the sweet potato, avocado, that would be like in sushi land, you definitely see avocado. Carrots, broccoli, that's in Chinese, more or less. And the tonkatsu pork. Now that is Japanese. Tonkatsu is just basically a fried cutlet. The katsu is the sauce. So I just embellished the dressing. I made a katsu sauce that for drizzling it over, I just diluted it a little bit with vegetable broth. So, because it got a little thick in the fridge. But katsu sauce is basically an Asian barbecue sauce. When I first saw a recipe for a chicken or pork tonkatsu, I looked at it and I said, it's just a cutlet. It's like a chicken cutlet. What's so amazing about it? Then I made the sauce. Wow. It was over the top delicious. The crispy pork, I think I did it with pork. And the katsu sauce, yeah. Now, I'm a ketchup lover. Love my ketchup on eggs and grilled cheese and, can't go without it. But this sauce is my grown-up taste buds loving. It's delicious. Okay, so enough said, I'm gonna try it. Got a little bit of pork in there, got some carrots, got some cabbage, and the katsu sauce. Yeah. totally reminds me of barbecue. So good. Sweetness from the mandarin orange. Now this doesn't have any dairy in it. Asian typically does not, but you get the creaminess from the avocado. This is my type of salad. Lots and lots of stuff. Sweet, savory, crunchy, well balanced. Now again, we're going to peel our hard-boiled egg, and once again, you're going to look for that little skin that you can peel, and if you can get a little bit of that skin peeled off, you're golden, because it's going to allow you to get the shell off. It's going to come off in chunks, just like this. Always peels beautifully. Perfect. Now I'm going to slice this as I did before, but this time, oh, and I take the ends off that don't have any yellow on them. My dog loves them. So again, going back, I'm going to slice it just as I did before. But this time I was thinking I'm going to do like crumbled. So I'm going to slice through again and then through again, just like that. Our salmon. So it's chilled now, and you can remove the skin very easily. Again, my dog loves the skin, but if you wanted to, you could pop this piece of skin with some lovely salt and pepper and put it in your air fryer to get it really crispy. It's a yummy snack. But we're just dealing with the flesh today, so I'm going to shred it just like I did the egg. You know, we're going with a shredded theme here. Now to our vessel, plate, bowl, platter, you're going to add your romaine lettuce. And remember that roasted veg, well, we're going to add it to both sides. I was thinking it's an absolute beautiful and delicious delicacy, so why not have it on both ends? I have some marinated artichoke hearts. They're going to go down. My egg. The salmon. I have feta cheese. It wouldn't be a Mediterranean salad without it. Olives. You can use Kalamata. These are a Mediterranean blend. Cucumber. Now again, you're looking for color, so something that's colorful, something that's not, something that's colorful. Now that emulsified, gorgeous lemon and red wine vinaigrette. And this is a toasted couscous. We're going to sprinkle that over the top. I want to talk a little bit more about, hear that? I want to talk a little bit more about this toasted couscous. It is, I didn't film it because it was an experiment. The recipe I found was calling for a pearl couscous, and all I had was the little itty bitty couscous, and I thought, I'm going to try it, see if it'll work. Make the couscous to the box directions. Then you get a pan, and I used a 12-inch pan because I used a half cup, like 5 ounces of couscous. And you get it on heat, and then you add oil. I added about a 1/4 cup of oil, and I used olive oil.
And then you add the cooked couscous. You stir for about 5 minutes just to encompass the couscous with the oil. And then for another 25 minutes-ish, you stir every 5 minutes, but you're flattening out the couscous in the pan so it starts to toast. And after about 20 minutes, it goes from blonde color to this deep, gorgeous toasted, so now it's crunchy couscous. This is our carbohydrate for our salad. So this is decadent. You've got a lot of good fats in here. You've got your olives, your cheese, the salmon is a fatty fish, and the dressing, of course, has a lot of olive oil in it. So high-end Mediterranean right here. It can be categorized as more or less Greek, but it's our Cobb Mediterranean. So the roasted veg, it was, I did peppers and cherry tomatoes and red onion. I did throw some garlic in there for the last, say, 10 minutes of roasting. It was a minced garlic, but you could start with whole garlic cloves, either peeled or unpeeled, and throw them on top of the veg and let them roast the whole time. And then you can smush them or take them out of the skin. But I had some chopped garlic, so I just added it about 10 minutes before the bake was over because I didn't want it burning. I always have some roasted vegetable on hand because it's so versatile. Okay, so I'm going in for some feta cheese, a little feta, with some salmon, an egg, and romaine. Yep. Very tasty. The other thing you can do is, the dressing I made had lemon juice in it, but you don't have to go overboard with your salad dressing. For this, you could just do a lemon and olive oil, period. Just squeeze lemon over it, followed by a good drizzle of excellent olive oil. You're good to go. And the artichoke hearts, I used jarred. They were marinated. You could get the ones that are just in water because your dressing is going to add the flavor. But I just had marinated artichoke hearts in my cabinet, so I used those. You hear that crunch? That's from the couscous. Delicious, well-balanced meals. After all the deep frying from the Wheel of Fortune, this is very welcoming. Honoring and welcoming balance into our lives. Justice is one of those cards that whenever I turn it in a spread, it always has to do with some type of legal situation. It's uncanny. Every single time I've pulled this card, and it comes up rarely for me, but when I pull for other people, and rarely for that too, but the times it has come up in readings, it does indicate some kind of legal situation that's happening, occurring, has happened, and now the after effects are part of the situation at hand that the querent is asking about. The other way that the Justice card can show up in readings that I've found is if there's no legal situation, and of course, depending on what card is on either side of the Justice card, it could be that the querent is not being fair to themselves, or there is unfairness on or in the querent's life. And the tarot hopefully will get to the bottom of what that is if the querent doesn't already know. So what does the Justice card mean? If you're doing a card of the day and you turn this card, maybe you should think about going through the day and just observing how justice is played out in any situation. Say you're at the grocery store. A lot of times I'll be at the grocery store, I'll have a full load of groceries in my cart. And I always see, if there is that situation where there's a person behind me with two things, I ask them if they want to go ahead of me. That to me is fair and just. Pulling the card for the card of the day. That's what I would interpret it as. Just bearing witness to what's fair and just in the day. People often ask, when you turn a card, does it mean yes or no if you're doing a yes or no reading? Well, justice, I don't think is cut and dry. As much as she should be, because she holds the sword, she's got clarity of mind, she can just pull and say yes or no. I think it would depend on how you ask the question. I think you need to be super specific to get a yes or no answer. Otherwise, in pulling the Justice card, I think the answer is whatever is true and just. That will prevail. That is the yes. Scales, balance. Scales, lose the weight, gain the weight, whatever you're trying to do. Keep it balanced. Eat your Cobb salads. Come up with your own. Go into your fridge, see what you have left over, and put it in little lines on top of lettuce. You're good. With that, I'll see you next week.